And you know what? The fun doesn't stop there. We've been taking breaks. Enough with that noise. Let's just get right into this next round. I believe we've got a 2-0 Vynnset for the folks at home. So let's get right into it. That last game was so sick. I mean, the way that the go again on the new turn, stripping away the banished cards so that Levi Redeemed was no longer an option, but Jesse was able to navigate away back into that spot, gain the life, and then all of a sudden finish that thing out.
It looked like it was like New was just going to close it out with the biggest, most insane new turn we've seen on camera, and yet we saw what could have possibly been even more crazy. Now, let's pivot over to this game, because a lot of people have been looking to ball out with Vynnset. But, you know, Kano has something to say about that. Now, I will say, I have played this matchup many times from the Kano perspective, and it can be a little rough going up against Rune Blades that have very effective Arcane Barrier, that have Spell Void available to them, and that can push a lot of damage. So, a lot of players talking about how powerful Kano can be and how powerful Kano is in general. Gaining, you know, Open the Floodgates, a beautiful card, right? But Vynnset can do some insane things in her own right, and this is a tough matchup that sometimes you just got to go for it for. So let's see who picks it up between Hunter on Kano going first and Brennan going second on Vynnset.
It's a scary one for sure.
You can hear the players. Brendan here saying, Kano can be a scary one. The question is, with the new tools in these Rune Blades disposal, a lot of talk of the town. I remember Nathan Crawford on one of his early streams in the Rosetta days saying, listen, I think Vynnset is the winner from Rosetta. Let's see if Brennan can prove him right. It's been banger after banger so far in that last round.
I want to point down here to the equipment. I want to talk about AB and Spell Void. You've got Spell Void 2, you've got AB 4, and you have Dance of Darkness to prevent 2. You are keeping everything in front of you, and this is what I mean. It can be very difficult into an equipment suite like that to really make any sort of headway from the perspective of the Kano, who is starting at 40 life instead of 30. That will be fixed, I'm sure. If Kano started at 40 life, I think people would riot.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. Crucible going to be the follow-up of the Open the Floodgates here. Kano.
Taking 10 damage is Kano right off the bat because he just plays on a different axis.
So what's been your major findings after this new Rosetta meta, right? Talk to me about what you people can expect as they're looking at Kano. You're a Kano enjoyer. You're a Kano player, right? So talk to me a little bit. I know you've played both of these heroes actually quite a bit, so we'll be looking to your expertise quite often. But what can people expect as they look at Kano post the bannings?
Well, there's a lot of talk right after they lose 6 cards in the form of tomes. What does Kano look like going forward? Does Kano actually have any legs whatsoever? And then everyone forgets about a card called Open the Floodgates that we saw the blue version right there representative of, which is a beautiful combo piece. It makes the combo cost more, but it also essentially just draws you the cards that you would have drawn off of Tome. So the deck itself can play a little bit more of a measured approach. It can play out a potion or 2. That's kind of what it's looking to do. I do want to point out in the hand, see if we can bounce over to that hand. A little hard to see, so we'll bounce back. But in the hand, there is a Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom, one of those cards that made its way out of the list in the previous meta, coming back into the list now. I think a lot of the arguments for that card being it's just really good when it hits. And especially good if you can somehow surge a Open the Floodgates after the fact. But an Envelope in Darkness making its way onto the board. Yellow.
A couple different Rune Blades with a couple different yellow cards I didn't expect. We saw a yellow Rune Rager Swarm earlier in the day, and now a yellow Envelope in Darkness. That is a card, of course, going to give +2 to the next attack and create a Rune Chant token. I was about to say, sometimes it can be hard for Vynnset to make that second Rune Chant token, especially when they don't have access to Grasp because they need this Arcane Barrier of the Vexing Quill hand. Yellow Envelope in Darkness, of course, allowing this hand to be much smoother from Brennan and be, in some ways, even functional. Going to keep a card most likely for the arsenal as well. So perhaps the functionality of that card, why you want to run it even in the banana color.
Yeah, Envelope is one of those very powerful cards that almost just single-handedly made Vynnset function before everyone started going red line with the hero. And it was oftentimes played in just like all colors at the very outset of the hero's sort of ideation. It made its way only to reds, and now seeing the yellows make it back into the deck is a pretty exciting time. This is a hero that's just gained so much from Rosetta, not just these new ways to build the deck, but some of these auras that you now have access to are just so crucial for her success, and she can put out massive amounts of damage now.
Quickening 5. If it deals more than 4, it gets go again.
5 damage from the quickening. However, no go again would be utilized on the turn, as there's nothing in the hand, no way to get any other action points. Let's see if Brendan wants to respect this, because as soon as you start taking damage against Kano, you put yourself in a different position to just get blown up off of the top of that deck. 3-card 10, though, from Vynnset on that last turn. Utilize 3 cards, 2 arcane, 8 physical. This is what this hero, looks to represent in this game of Flesh and Blood. Highly efficient turns, highly efficient hands, if you can make them work, because it is not a May ability on that hero card, folks. It says you must banish a card. And Brendan here, going to go ahead and take 5.
Go again.
Yep. Taking 5 here is totally fine, because there is no follow-up. If there was a card in hand, something like a potion, you might consider pitching into it. But knowing that they had blocked with 2 cards felt totally fine. But drawing into, is that a Kindle and a Wildfire? Okay, so the other thing you want to think about as a Kano player is how you can most effectively line up both Kindle and Wildfire on any given turn, because those are very powerful cards in concert. Now you have a blue and a yellow as well, which you want one of these. Effectively, you want one of these in the arsenal at the end of this turn. So you may end up blocking a little bit here, just playing an arsenal type game. Let's see how this turn plays out for the Vynnset, though, because Runeblood Incantation comes down, a very powerful key card in the red line versions of the list.
Pitching a red into it, so no blue to continue the turn. But honestly, again, these Vynsets, they don't often need a bunch of pitch. Swarming Gloomveil now, of course, we've created a couple different auras. So this will be 4 and 1, thanks to 2 auras being created, 1 Rune Chant and 1 Runeblood Incantation. 1 Rune Chant going to go over the top, so Hunter down to 27 after taking the 2 damage last turn.
And I will
see if he lines up the block. No, he does not. He's going to take the 4 here, Swarming Gloomveil. Now, keep in mind, Bounding Demagon was banished there. We could see it played, and it is indeed played here. The other arsenal, or the other option, I could say, is arsenaling the last card and keeping Bounding in the banish zone so that you can play for a big sort of Alpha Strike type turn.
So look at that. That is going to be 4 damage across from the Bounding Demagon. Like we said, good cards in the hand there for Hunter, so likely looking to use them all here on this turn. Brennan's at 35 with the Kindle in hand, Sonic Boom. Let's go from here and see what we're able to utilize. This is going to be the action point, most likely, but it's a good one.
So deciding here to play this 6 value play. So you could have blocked for 6 on the previous turn using both of these cards on both of those breakpoint attacks. Or you could play for a Sonic Boom, naked, not buffed, hoping to find something off the top and try to equate 6 value. It'll be interesting to see if this buys a card from the hand, then you're essentially getting that value back because your opponent's not going to have the card on their turn, versus just traditionally blocking out and then drawing back up, right? Because your turn would be Arsenal Pass. They would have 4 cards plus an Arsenal and the entire suite of Spell Void and AB. So playing it this way means you probably rip a card from them, and you interact with their hand a bit, especially if they don't have a blue here, which we might actually see. If there is no blue, then this is really tough to stop, because you're now asking, if I want to cover this up completely, I have to get rid of a red and a yellow, and that might just not be enough for us to have an effective turn from the Vynnset side.
Because a card being banished from the hand means that there might not be much functionality from there. The Widespread Ruin that we can see there needs 2 Rune Chants to be able to Rune Gate in, come across the Dimensional Vortex, and make its way in. But it looks as though Brendan is afraid enough of the Sonic Boom. I mean, when you see your Kano opponent take all that damage, it either means they have no blocks in the hand, or they're trying to utilize all those cards. So this Sonic Boom represents 3 damage right now, but depending on what's in the Kano's hand, could represent a whole lot more.
He is going to pitch for the AB, and this is really, either way, Hunter's probably happy in this sequence because he gets one of those cards to Arsenal. Taking the cards is even better because we know there's going to be a drop. There's the Banish, Widespread Ruin. The activation of the Runeblood Incantation is going to make the 2nd Rune Chant, so that is a playable card. But you now have everything ready to try and combo if you want to take your shot at this moment.
35 is the life total. One card in the hand, one card in the arsenal, but of course that Spell Void 4 threatens to really change the math for if Hunter wants to combo off here, because again, here's 8 more damage. The incantation, I was wondering where he's going to get the second rune chant. I've been thinking of Malefic Incantation, but the OG Runeblood Incantation is just a start of action phase trigger. So it is something that is able to happen every turn. You don't need to play the attack like the new incantation, the old incantation, it's just differently powerful, right? The Malefic Incantation leaving the rune chant for cards like Deadwood Dirge, for abilities like Snuff Out, but the incantation of the Runeblood variety really helping out Vynnset on a turn exactly like this.
He's taking his time to really decide whether or not he can actually combo, because if you commit a card here, like let's say you have a blue, and you pitch it to Kano and you just peek the top to see what you have on top. You have 7, I believe if I've counted correctly, you have 7 open the floodgates that you might be able to find, depending on how deep we've gone into the deck. I mean, we're only on turn 3, so you can run the numbers and decide whether or not you want to take a look first, or if you want to just kind of fire off the double Kano combo. And he is going to look. I don't know what he finds a lesson. Okay, so you don't have to play for Open the Floodgates. You can also just play for the Lesson in Lava combo, which is just a vanilla 26 damage combo. It does use your boots in this case, unless you get some, tricky stuff going on with Ragamuffin's hat.
Kindle in the arsenal also threatens to change the math on the turn, but with Spell Void 4, that is tough to get over, even if the card in hand is a red like we believe it is for Brennan here.
He's pitching the Aether Wildfire to Arcane Barrier 1. No Depot in circulation. Doesn't have a Potion of Deja Vu, so he can't cycle the pitch here onto the top of the deck. Sometimes you use that on a key turn to actually play out your Wildfire, something like a Ragamuffin's Hat effect, essentially. Maybe he has a second one in hand. That could be the first one he drew. Yeah, he did.
I'm going to Lessons.
Now, this is interesting. 3 damage threatens to put a card on the top of the deck, which would then be the card banished to the Widespread Ruin trigger, as Hunter did say no block. So this damage is going to be unblocked, right? The damage is going to come through. So maybe Hunter wanting to make sure there's a certain card on the top of the deck that he doesn't want to see banished, get a card shuffled, even though those are 2 Aether Wildfires that are now going to be on the bottom of the deck. You're not going to see those anytime soon, especially after you shuffle with Lesson in Lava, if Brennan lets this go through.
Yeah, that's a very tough spot to be in with both of them being on the bottom. You do have Kindle still loaded up. I wonder if the final card is also somehow Aether Wildfire, which would make a lot of sense if his body posture is anything to be read. Nevertheless, going to just let that go through. I think in this matchup specifically as Kano, you want to present something awkward, something scary that gets them to bite on using the Spell Void or using the Prevention. And this is kind of one of those... Yep. Okay, there's the third one. Kind of one of those key turns to try and grab some Spell Void away from your opponent, taking damage down to 12. This is going to go on the top of the deck. He's going to draw it for next turn so that he can more easily set it up.
But the Ruin is going to banish card from each player's top of deck, right?
Ooh,
and he has lost life. That's what I was kind of getting at, right? Like the Lesson in Lava puts a card on top of the deck, and then that's the card that gets banished to the Widespread Ruin. So I was thinking he was potentially wanting to put a specific card to get banished. Maybe he's just going to Kano this away, utilize the Kindle to draw it, put it back.
Ragamuffin's Hat, maybe?
Block 3. He can Kindle, draw that card, and then Arsenal it on the next turn. Oh, let's see, though, even if the Widespread Ruin trigger is resolved here.
Okay, sounds good.
And it looks as though both players are just passing.
Nevertheless, drawing up. There's a Truce in the deck. I want to point the Truce out, which is quite huge from Hunter. Truce is a kind of a fun new card, but yes, no, you're pointing out a very key interaction that both players seem to have moved past.
No, you're good. Runeblood Incantation.
So that's now 2 Rune Chants once again and a Deathly Delight that can be played. So we know there's an Aether Wildfire in the hand. It's the last one in the deck. The other 2 are on the bottom. We know there's a Kindle in the arsenal as well.
Response? No response. Okay.
No response to the Malefic Incantation.
Yeah, I'm still scratching my head about it as well. I'm sure the players might look back at that and think, oh, that was a key moment. There were counterplays available, obviously.
Draw and draw with the Kindle, right, to try to keep it in the arsenal. But here we're now on to the Deathly Delight with 2 Rune Chants.
Kano.
That is going to be by a Kano response, the Truce in the pitch zone, and there's a red Open the Floodgates. This is where things are going to go crazy. We have a Kindle in the arsenal, a Wildfire in the hand. Both players know it. This 8 damage is also not even lethal.
I think that is That is the card, of course, he was looking for on the previous turn. He would have loved to see that. Of course, you also would love to see a handful of blues as well to really power up this turn. You know that the Wildfire's there. We personally know that the Kindle's there, but I think I saw Swell Tidings in there as well, making it difficult to play this turn out. Keep in mind, a lot of players thinking, Kano's just going to blow through this tournament, blow through the meta right now because he has the ability to do this insane stuff. The combo is far more expensive if you don't have one of those, E-Pod on the board, or if you don't have an effective way, like a huge blue hand. It's really tough to like play this combo out to the same degree.
In response, 1 regs.
We know this song and dance. There's a Kano activation on the stack, 2 floating as we would underpitched. Looks like in response, we're going to put a Kindle on the stack as well. No, keep the Kindle in the arsenal because the Kindle needs to see no cards in hand in order to draw the card. Ragamuffin's Hat means card from the top of the deck. Let's see what it is. It's a Blazing Aether. That's not the blue you need to make this turn work.
No, and that is crippling. You have to find a blue there so that you can top, and yeah, you can see the look of resignation on Hunter's face here. He knows that is exactly what he wanted to avoid. The red already banished, another red on top. His deck is just giving him what he doesn't need at this moment. You can see he had lots of blues in hand. He had a Pop the Bubble. He had a Truce. Even had a Lessons in Lava number 2. But it's not what you're looking to see.
Top.
Let the Ragamuffin's Hat resolve the Kano. It's going to banish the Wildfire, but that Wildfire costs you 2.
Yeah.
And you only have access to the Spellfire Cloak to get you another resource.
Yeah, this is a very tough
It's going to
spot.
be challenging, so you need to draw off the Kindle, right? You just simply need to, but in order to do that, you're going to have to pitch away that Blazing Aether.
Crucible.
Crucible here is going to pay for 1. You have the red in hand so that you can pitch it to the Aether Wildfire. You do play the Kindle in response to that, of course, and then hopefully draw a blue. But you're also, keep in mind, staring down Deathly Delight and 2 Rune Chants in doing so.
What's he pitching into here? He's just pitching into the Wildfire, of
you've
course.
got to pitch so that you can get rid of the resource floating and the card in hand so that you can then Kindle in response, drawing hopefully a blue. He's rubbing the top of the deck.
It is a blue. It is a blue off the top of the deck. That will make this more possible. However, this is for 6, and it can be completely stuffed, and it's the last Wildfire that we're going to see unless something like Lesson in Lava is able to shuffle the deck and grab another card. Let's see here, though. Are there blues in the hand for Brennan? Looks like yellow and yellow.
Most importantly, you can just try to cover this up as best as you can using the damage prevention, using the Spell Void, and basically just say, okay, well, now deal with my attack.
Now deal with my attack, and deal with my attack when there are just no Aether Wildfires to be seen. The question is, though, I think... Oh, no, the Lesson in Lava is in the pitch zone. He pitched it earlier. I was going to say Lesson in Lava can shuffle the deck and change this around, but no, that was part of the early pitch, and it's the random blue in the hand. Open the Floodgates will threaten to do something, but not if it can't surge because the Wildfire is taken up. This is just going to be AB4 and Spell Void 2, so leaving Spell Void 2 available for the rest of this turn, just taking all the cards out of the hand, saying we can both play face up, buddy, but that Wildfire is completely stuffed, headed to the graveyard. For Hunter here, at least, Stormstriders have not yet been committed, and right now have no reason to be.
No, and you're in a very tough spot because, of course, you are staring down the Rune Chants and the Deathly Delight with a singular card in hand.
Looks like it's maybe a Gaze the Ages in the hand for Hunter. That allows for some top-of-deck manipulation. But Crucible has already been used. Yes, that was used on the Wildfire. See, we can't use the Crucible to surge up the Open the Floodgates. What can he find here?
He might just consider leaving the Open the Floodgates banished, not trying to play it out there, because the only way you could push it at this point is using Metacarpus Node, which was a consideration on the Aether Wildfire. Chose not to use it there, so losing a point of value on there. If you tried to activate Metacarpus Node and somehow surge, you would be maybe trying to play it out. But remember, Dance of Darkness on the bottom of your screen there is basically going to stop that surge effect from happening. He is going to try it. He's going to play it out there. Metacarpus noting the Open the Floodgates. If it surges, if it deals more than 3, he's going to draw 2 cards.
So really asking for that final piece of Spell Void, saying if you do not quote unquote Spell Void, if you give me the Dance of Darkness, then the Open the Floodgates will not surge, will not draw the 2 cards. But I think Brennan might be wondering, like, what's the worst thing that can happen with 2 cards, right?
That's on the meta.
Deathly Delight, of course. If damage comes over the top, Brennan would gain life as well. First, he has to take some damage first. And it looks like he's going to take this 3. Keep that Spell Void around. Let's see what the 2 cards are.
Now, this is massive, giving effectively 6 life over to Hunter by allowing the draw of 2 cards. And you can see a massive sigh, at least drawing into perhaps something. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to be combo at this point. At this point, you're just trying to preserve life or find a way back into the tempo game plan that Kano actually excels at, of just trading effectively. Unfortunately, you're against Brennan on Vynnset, who does not play by your rules. She goes over the top of all of your value calculations by throwing Rune Chance and Rune Gate attacks. And so you have more cards. You perhaps if you drew to 2-3 blocks, you have effectively 6 more life here. But you're staring down the barrel of a very scary hero that's looking to try and close this game out over the next 2 turns.
Question, I wonder if the Malefic Incantation, that was played on this turn, yes? So I wonder if this is all technically still in the layer step, that Malefic would maybe have a chance to trigger if we're moving to attack. Looks like that is what's happening here on the layer step, so that is going to make a Rune Chant. So 2 damage, now 5 damage coming over. That one of the cards drawn off to open the floodgates is just going to go ahead and buy that Sonic Bloom to block. So 2 damage now over the top, and now that damage has been taken, Deathly Delight will heal Brennan 1 back to 29. So for Hunter, Ragamuffin's Hat, used. Metacarpus Nose, used. Still have the Storm Striders and the Spellfire Cloak, but everybody sitting here at the table, everybody knows 2 Aether Wildfires are at the very bottom of the deck.
Yeah, this is a tough spot to be in from Hunter. Most likely going to Arsenal this card, unless it's a potion. Looks like it is going to be into the Arsenal.
He gets a Lesson in Lava, maybe that 3rd and final Lesson in Lava, which does change things, allows for a shuffle to happen.
Brennan's done a fantastic job of navigating this Kano matchup. You can tell he's put some time into this. He has the AB4. He had 2 versions of Spell Void, essentially. He kept one of them up for anything,
that's smart
anything
too,
else, right?
Yeah.
That might come his way. If he has to pop Vexing in a moment, he still has access to AB3, or he can just keep playing Envelop in Darkness into big attack, into a lot of damage.
Envelop here, going to go ahead and create a Rune Chant. He's saying, looks like he's saying that he missed the trigger for the Rune Chant token, even though nothing else has happened.
Thank you.
Yeah. It looks like Hunter's saying, no, just get your Rune Chant, bro, because nothing else has really happened. We haven't even technically moved on. So that now leaves 2 floating. It leaves a Widespread Ruin coming on, once again threatening to banish both the cards of the deck for the heroes that have lost life this turn.
Take 1.
So take 1 of the Rune Chant tokens, so now theoretically a card would be banished from Hunter's top of deck at the end of the Combat Chain Resolution. Malefic Incantation, you can see here, that's just going to block 9 now. Is there any kind of pummel to go over the top?
In response,
There's no way, right? No, just a Funeral
No,
Moon.
yeah, most likely just Funeral Moon. No, some people do still play the pummels, but I think they're far and few between at this point now, because the deck is just so rife with better cards like Aura Creation, Rune Chant creators like Malefic Incantation. But Funeral Moon, a fantastic effect. Missing that Widespread Ruin effect again. Both players forgetting about that dealing damage or taking damage effect.
Looks like start of turn is the Vynnset before the start of action phase trigger, which is the Runeblood Incantation. See if we can see those cards in hand. He has the 1 Rune Chant.
We have our first sighting of Mauvrian Skies. We did not see a single Mauvrian Skies in that previous Viscerai game.
No,
And now we see our first Mauvrian Skies in Vynnset.
that's another thing our friend Nathan Crawford was saying on his streams that I've been watching. He's like, Mob doesn't, just Mob attack weapon, it just doesn't cut it anymore in those those Viscerai decks at least. But in Vynnset, when you're able to stack up the Banishon with a couple attacks, couple it with the Deadwood Dirge, something to make more Rune Chants go again, can be quite effective.
I think we've now found the potions. Unfortunately, looks like he's got the Clarity Potion. Looks like he's got the Potion of Deja Vu in the hand, which is an uncomfortable spot to be in. When you're at 10, you need to block some. You don't really want to find it now. Of course, you would have loved to have found it earlier, but you're only 5 turns in, and sometimes it just happens that way. The Clarity Potion's a new addition to the deck, one that I'm still a little divided on. The idea of being able to play it out at instant speed, opting to, trying to find those key pieces, can be quite good, but it also is a no block, and you've got a bunch of other no blocks in the deck already.
Both players having a laugh about the reduced to rune chant being in the banish zone, because I think Brennan is asking, why did I leave those in the deck? You know, we're not exactly sure where Kano is going to land post Rosetta, post bans, but most of them still not running many attack actions. Deadwood Dirge here going to go ahead, break 1 rune chant, and then add 3 more, so up to 5 rune chants on the turn. It's a lot of arcane. Eloquent Eulogy now going to be the play from Arsenal, so if either hero loses life, that means an Eloquence token for Brennan, and with cards like Read the Runes or other style effects, that can go a long way in these Vynnset lists.
It really can, and being able to have an Eloquence token and gain an extra point of action point in general can do some really crazy things. But in this matchup specifically, I feel like you're just looking to put them to lethal quickly and play protection. And you don't need that extra action point unless you can just find a cheeky use for it. You're just trying to get them to 0.
If you want to get, you can. But
there we go. They're going to go ahead and make an Eloquence token. There we go. They're getting used finally. Let's go.
Oh, I got to draw it.
Now he's saying you have to draw the Eloquence token.
Yes, drawing your own Eloquence. They said never
and that's
mind.
going to cause them to just grab the token. Our producer has successfully bullied Brennan out of utilizing the Infinite token.
That's a beautiful piece of art. I don't know if you can measure up to the beauty
so
of
funny.
Eloquence.
Just like, you have to draw it. I have to draw it. Never mind.
Okay, we'll just go find it.
I'll just get the friggin' token. All right, drawn up here. It's going to be the Clarity Potion as you described. 4 hands now for Kano, so he's just trying to dig closer and closer to those wildfires at the bottom. How is Brennan going to be able to break the math and get over the top? 2 rune chants now and a Deathly Delight in the arsenal. If you give Kano too much time, I don't care if there are Aether Wildfires at the bottom. This deck can just blow people up. Brennan needs to find the way over.
He's got the Mavrian Skies in the arsenal, but he already has the Eloquence token on the board, so it's kind of a waste to just play out the Mavrian Skies. But you don't care, really. Your goal here isn't to utilize the value off of Eloquence. It's really to just find some big chunk damage in a way that keeps you safe for any possible shenanigans from the Kano. Sonata Galaxia, the play here. With the 2 rune chants, you get to search for, in this case, it's going to be the Malefic Incantation, which of course costs 0.
I wonder... No, I'm sure it doesn't work that way. I wonder... I was going to say, if this card itself had Go Again and then was given Go Again with the Eloquence token, if it would work like when an instant gets Go Again and gives you an action point. But I think it would just be 2 instances of Go Again on the same thing, and then thus only the 1 action point.
I think the Malefic would gain the Go Again, but the Malefic already has Go Again, but it's being placed into
Yeah,
the arena.
because Sonata has Go Again if it's 2 or more, but I was wondering, like, oh, if it has Go Again and the Eloquence, but I think that's just, it doesn't give you an action point.
Yeah. There's a fun little interaction there as well as the Eloquence token is popping, where you could like do some cute things and flash in another non-attack. But here, using it just to give the Sonata Galaxia Go Again, like I was saying, is just fine. Your goal is to just play out big attacks and try to close this out.
Well, now here we go, because this is Mavrin Skies creating a rune chant with the Malefic Incantation, and if this Deathly Delight hits, that means 3 more rune chants, so Hunter has to keep cards back to block, meaning he can't pitch into the Arcane Barrier at all. He has to block 6 to save the 3 rune chants. What's going to be the follow-up off the Mavrin Skies? Oh, is it just going to be the Flail? If it's the Flail, that does not push enough damage here. The Deathly Delight will, of course, heal Brennan back to 30 at the end of the combat chain.
I'll go to 5.
Taking 1, healing 1.
You'll make another rune chant.
And Hunter here going to take 2 down to 5. 1 from the rune chant, 1 from the flail, and then that makes another rune chant. And the Deathly Delight, of course, healing Brennan back to 30. That means Brennan looks like he's just going to arsenal a final card here and keep 1 in the hand. So that was all very synergistic, right, from the Vynnset side. Take a damage, heal a damage, threaten a rune chant, make a rune chant. Looks like
there's a lot of talk about how Vynnset can still face these clunky hands, but we've seen a lot more how even some clunky hands like we just watched are functional in the right sequencing in the right order, using Sonata Galaxia to grab the Malefic Incantation and then playing out an attack plus the flail here. It doesn't present lethal, but it pushes them lower while still staying, protected and insulated from mass amounts of damage. Now, from the Kano's perspective, from this point, you're really having to dig through the deck, try to find some mini combo that you can put together and play a turn like this, which is going to ask for responses and try to slow your opponent down. This is the tempo game plan that Kano was doing long before he became this terror that he is now, where he's just trying to block effectively and then send something that has perhaps a detrimental on hit. Here, opting one, it looks like, to the bottom, a few to the top, and that'll be the turn.
Now, Brennan here I was about to say, yes, he can play the Funeral Moon at instant speed because he lost life, giving him a second Rune Chant token, which might be the difference maker, depending on what the Rune Gate is on the turn for Brennan. Hunter's only at 5, has the Clarity Potion card in Arsenal, was able to opt 3, so got rid of one card he didn't want to see, but unfortunately doesn't get to look that much closer. Oh, look at
no.
this. Those
he has
not
no Rune
cards.
Gate attack. He has no attack whatsoever. He's hit the dreaded Runeblade hand. He is going to drop that in. He's going to pass priority with one card. Now, this is actually kind of a saving grace because sometimes against wizards, you just play insulated. You're like, I might be able to do something, but instead I'm just going to see if you want to respond. I'll pass. But in this case, it really is completely face up. Like, I can't do anything, so I'm just hoping you don't do anything back to me.
Yeah.
Pass is okay, so Hunter here now on 5 to Brennan's 28. What's the hand there? Still no Rune Gate cards, and I think that might be another reduced to Rune Chant, which is a card he does not want to see in this matchup. A card he's, I think, bummed he even left in the deck. Arcane Twinning off the top.
Just over here.
Okay.
Not on the stack, just over there, as Hunter says.
We're just going to keep the
This is just over here,
there.
man. Yeah.
Oh, no. Did he? Both players just variance central over here. Find something, leave it on top. Might be the Kindle, might be Eye of Ophidia, something like that you can't actually banish. Nevertheless, Arcane Twining is not the way you want to capitalize on, the Arsenal Pass essential turn that we saw previously. That's not the way to really get back into the game.
We've seen hot and heavy. We've seen fast and furious in this game, and we've also seen it kind of come to a screeching halt as both players are having clunker after clunker. Hunter, that turn that he had early, it has made these next turns just mostly blocking and trying to establish a potion, and now a second potion, doing a little bit of opting, trying to find a way to sculpt the hand. And for Brennan, man, his hands are just not cooperating anymore.
No, and this is what Hunter wants to do early in the game is go, block effectively, throw something, potion. Block effectively, another potion. And then play the combo. Almost forced into an early combo and not enough resources, a lot of prevention that stopped it, but now has a little bit of space to try and get back into this game if he can find his way back to the bottom of the deck where those wildfires lurk. It's going to be hard, though, because Swarming Gloomveil is coming across alongside of 4 Rune Chants. 2 cards still in hand. Insulation is there. 26 life for Vynnset. And keep in mind, the Dance of Darkness looming quite large against the onslaught of Arcane that could be coming his way.
Couple damage threatening to leak over here. A blue takes care of 3 of the Rune Chants, but 1 leaks over. A 3 block takes care of 3 of the damage from the 4 power Swarming Gloomveil, but 1 leaks over. Malefic Incantation kind of doing double duty here, allowing not only for the Rune Chant to threaten a point of damage, but being the second aura created for the Swarming Gloomveil to get that extra point of damage. So Malefic Incantation often worth about 3 here, adding an additional point of value. So now it's a 0 for 4, and if it can allow you to Rune Gate, that's when the value propositions get even higher from that new card. AB3, 1 damage, Hunter down to 4. 4 damage, still needs to be respective. Take 3. Or block 3, take 1, down to 3. So precisely just utilizing the cards as effectively as possible. Aware that there might be a big attack coming from the Arsenal or the hand.
And he has to wonder what could be lurking in Arsenal, what could be lurking in hand if this is the sort of sequence over the last 2 turns. He might have sort of pinned Brennan on having one of those clunky hands. And spoiler alert, he has a very clunky hand to follow this up. Flail doesn't let you filter the hand either, which is the worst part. So you can't necessarily just pitch into it. So do you just play something out for basically no effect so that you can draw into something a little bit better? You've got 2 sources of go again and no attacks to grant it to. There's some weird lines where maybe you look at your board and you think, is there something I could pitch into? Can you crack the Grimoire of the Haunt?
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Yeah,
just get these cards out of hand, just play them out, maybe.
From the Kano's perspective, as looks like Mauvern Sky's gonna be the play, and move to pass. Pass is good from Hunter, so Hunter gets to keep 2 cards in the hand and 1 in the arsenal. Let's see. Is he able to draw something that works a little better? Deadwood Dirge, Malefic Incantation.
Oh,
he
no,
drew
five
5
cards.
He
was-
drew 5. That's going to make it challenging to keep all 5 of those. One is going to have to head to the bottom of the deck.
He was so in the tank about the past 2 turns of Runeblade hands that he didn't even
20
consider.
feet. I'll write that down.
Oh, you hate to see that, but
Is it just tap? Okay.
Yeah, it's that. My bad.
Here you go.
2 cards in the hand. We'll see what the judges, of course, do from this point.
It happens.
Oh, I know. It's
Yeah.
just like,
But
oh,
2
man.
cards in the hand for Hunter.
Often the resolution is, right, the cards are revealed, the player takes one of the cards and puts it, I believe, just on the bottom of the deck, which is whatever the other player, or, the opposing player gets to decide what the card from the hand, if that heads to the bottom of the deck, is.
Sure.
Because there is, the added information of seeing all 5 of those cards and knowing a little bit about what the next card of your deck would be if you were to just put one on the top of the deck. Even if it's the card that would have been there anyway, you technically, of course, have a little extra information. It would maybe influence the way you block or play your cards, knowing what you would draw on the next turn.
Regardless of the outcome there, the real question becomes, how does Hunter play from this point? He's at 2. He's on the ropes. He has a 2-card plus an arsenal hand. He could perhaps, depending on what his composition is in his hand right now, he could perhaps just throw a spell, try to get himself back into the game, chip a little bit more damage. But again, you're still having to worry about AB4 Spell Void 2 effectively. And climbing into that's very difficult. He's going to Kano. Now, if he's got a running count going of potions, he has not seen a lot of potions right now. So he could be trying to play out a potion. That is also a running count you have to keep. You've seen a good number of open the floodgates, excuse me. So he is going to Crucible open the floodgates here for just the 4 damage.
3 points of Arcane, and if it surges, 2 cards get to be drawn. That is going to buy AB2, so 2 damage over the top, so no surge, but takes 2 reds out of the hand. Now Brennan down to 24, and that is the end of the turn for Hunter, so he's trying to string together enough to really threaten Brennan here.
Now, based on this, I was about to say, based on the way that the deck has drawn up thus far, it's really likely that he draws into no blocks here from Hunter's perspective. And if we look at his hand, if we can maybe, he's got at least a potion, and I think I saw a Kindle in there as well. 3 potions.
No blocks.
Exactly. So I think that's what he was digging for on the previous turn as well, trying to find one of those things off the top so that at the very least he can get it out. And he knows that no matter what happens on this turn, I'm going to be presented lethal. I have to do something. I have to find something because my hand cannot protect me.
Looks as though Brennan maybe just went ahead and moved to pass the turn. And that is, I did not see if he said pass or not, but I do see that Hunter is doing something.
Oh.
He's activating the Clarity Potion. He's opting to.
You might be right, because the Banish was the Shadow Puppetry. We know Succumb to Temptation was
in the hand.
card in the
He's
hand.
drawing all non-attacks for like the last 3 turns.
You know what? And we didn't see it actually transpire, but Hunter might actually know this, because if like you said, the hand was revealed and the card that was sent down was the only attack in the hand, he actually might feel fairly insulated. So he may be in a really fortuitous position.
4 cards in hand, Energy Potion and Clarity Potion. We've opted 2. That's 2 to the bottom, which you're happy to see if you're Brennan. Got a Kindle in the hand. Pitch away the Clarity Potion. Let's activate Kano. This is random off the top. It's going to be a Prognosticate. That's not that exciting. It's 1 point of damage.
Again, if you're keeping a running count, you've seen a decent chunk of red cards. Early in those first few turns, it was reds, like 2 red hands, 3 red hands. And so the chances of finding a lot of blues here is pretty high as well, which is another thing that you do as Kano, is try to track how the deck's been drawing. Are you likely to find a red card on top, a blue card on top? We know that we hadn't seen a lot of these potions, so it was likely that blues and potions were on the top, which isn't what you want if you plan on playing a combo out. But in this moment, you have like the green light to go, so you have to pull the trigger and try.
Yeah, but I have to imagine Brendan still has his action point, right? If you go too crazy, you take all the cards out of your hand, all of a sudden you're looking at utilizing the Energy Potion to deal with the Rune Chance, because 2 Rune Chance plus 1 Flail of Agony is enough to threaten lethal for Hunter, so he has to keep some cards in hand here, or else the damage that's already represented on Brennan's side of the board is enough to threaten lethal. Looks like Brennan's still just gonna pass.
Well, and this is fine for Hunter as long as he's got a spell in hand, or I guess he could play out one of those other potions because he has something effective to do on his turn. Let's see what he chooses to do. He's gonna.
I think he
They both
finally
chuckle.
got a card that he can attack with. Looks like both players having a bit of a laugh. It looks like at least the widespread destruction is enough to do something on the turn. Overflow the Aether Well off the top with the Kindle ability, or the Kano ability, but this card, of course, does cost you resources to play. That last card in hand, we believe, is a Kindle. It amps, and it draws a card.
Yeah, Overflow the Aether Well is free. It does come across for 1 point of
Oh,
damage. If you pitch for Crucible, then so be it. But at this point, you just find a blue. You just throw it for 1 measly point of damage and then play the potion in the hand that you have there. Pitching the Aether Arc, of course. That could be the play. You play Aether Arc instead to try and get a Ponder, but you don't need to because you already have an arsenal. So the hand is really just drawn up to throw this exact sequence, play that potion out, and pass on over and try to do something.
I don't know where I got that Kindle from. I thought there was a Kindle.
I would behoove him to have a Kindle.
He'd be stoked to have one.
Maybe one.
I think maybe he does have a Kindle, actually. I think that last card is Kindle because it was a Potion Kindle, perhaps?
Well, AB1 at least on the Overflow the Aether Well. Take the Envelop in Darkness out of the hand. Let's see here, Hunter.
Blazing for nothing.
Yeah, I was
Blazing
gonna
for
say.
nothing.
That is the other option, is to get the Blazing out because Blazing doesn't feel great in the Arsenal. You really are predicated on actually dealing damage for that card. There's a Kindle. Kindle in Arsenal. Kindle in hand. Blues aplenty.
Move up to 3. All good.
And finally, Lethal will be presented after multiple turns of maybe not the best hands.
Brandon's deck doing his very best to let this Kano player well back into this game. The question is there go again? Can Brendan find action points? How is Brendan able to extend this turn wide enough so that just 9 points of damage isn't just stuffed up and the dance continues again? Shadow puppetry might be the answer.
Vynnset trigger.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to pay for it.
Okay.
He's not going to pay for it, but I mean, the rune chants are effectively lethal on the stack already, right? So this attack is going to just need to be responded to either by blocking and pitching to stop lethal or just by trying to combo. But I mean, your opponent's sitting with 2 cards in hand and a lot of prevention on the board still. Double Kindle can do you some crazy stuff, but it really is predicated on what you find off the top. You have Storm Striders available, but it looked like based on the hand, I don't know if we can maybe see, he does have he has a Sonic Boom. So maybe you try for something here, but he's looking like he's going to perhaps pitch into stopping and then trying to block out. Keep in mind, this has go again.
Yeah.
It's presenting a
Exactly.
break point.
Exactly.
You have go again, right? And yeah, I feel like this. Has
Shadow
to,
puppetry.
yeah, I feel like this has to be my turn.
Exactly. It really does. There's no way around it. If you try to block this out, you're just going to lose in the long run because you can't stop all the damage. So this is the moment where he has to try to put something together, and I think it starts with a Kano off the top, and you actually look at it. It's not what you want to find. A blue is not what you want. You would have loved to have drawn into that.
Sure.
So double Kano into a Kindle would have been better.
Heads up from Brennan there, right? He did not use the Vynnset trigger, pay the life to make this rune chant unpreventable. Brennan also was aware this has to be your turn. If you block this out, I'm probably happy. So Brennan keeping the life in his life total, keeping the cards in hand, saying, I don't care if the rune chant is unpreventable. I think these are going to have to be respected. And the Storm Striders here looking for the Sonic Boom. You're shaking your head, Steven.
This is such a difficult play. It's so difficult to throw out this Sonic Boom and hope, especially if you're not crucibling it.
Response.
Looks like we might respond with both Kindles here.
Yeah.
Kindle.
Yep.
Draw.
I'll resolve Kindle.
Okay.
+1 draws you the card. Most likely finds another blue based on if we're playing 34 blues, which is pretty often right now in this list. We hadn't seen a lot of blues early on. This is probably the moment that we draw another blue, which is what you want off Kindle. You want a blue.
Okay.
Spellfire Cloak to get a resource. Pitch away
Oh.
the yellow, open the floodgate. We're going to Kano again.
Twinning.
Okay.
Arcane Twinning, another blue, like you're saying. You've been calling it out quite well, my friend. This is when you draw the no blocks. This is when you draw the blues.
He's just drawn it all backwards because you want the open the floodgates
Kindle.
to be on the top for a Sonic Boom. You want it to be banished. You don't want Twining. You don't want Overflow the Aether Well.
Sonic Boom here now is amped by 2, so coming in for 5.
And you look at this from Vynnset and you say, yeah, this is a fine time to use Dance of Darkness plus pitch. This is okay. They are all in. They're dead. If they don't kill you right now, you're good. So you just cover all of this. Those were the opposite of what you want to see from the side of Kano. You still have E-Pots. You can still basically Kano one more time, but man, that Sonic Boom just getting completely covered.
Stops the Sonic Boom with the blue pitch and the Dance of Darkness. So one final card in hand for Brennan. Like you said, there are E-Pots available for Hunter. He kept the Crucible maybe for something like an Open the Floodgates if he can find it. But he has to find it off the top.
One card in hand. 2 E-Pots on the board. Twining going to be sent most likely for 1. You could maybe Crucible the Overflow the Aether Well for an extra 2 resources. That gets you effectively 2 Kanos off the top.
This one I feel like you take, right? This one has nothing represented other than potential Blazing Aether. But no, Brennan's just going to reveal his hand, show that it's a yellow. So one pitch is all that remains between him and whatever the Kano is able to cobble together. What's the top of the deck for the Kano player? Aether Wildfire is going to be able to be played with the energy potions, but that is not going to be enough. You need to find something else.
Yeah, you're going to crack both E-Pots here. You can Crucible Aether Wildfire, and that sends for 5.
You know what would be really good here? Off the top?
Top 4.
Tome of Aetherwind.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
But you know what's on the top? A second Aether Wildfire, because he pushed him that way. Unless he cycled him differently. But nevertheless, Crucible...
You're totally right.
Crucible Aether Wildfire for 5 is going to allow the Overflow the Aether World to surge. He has 4 resources up. He's going to have to pay 3 for just playing out that line. It gets 2, and then he has a Kano, and then he has 0 floating. And I think the top of the deck is likely that Aether Wildfire, unless he split them when he put
pitched
to the
it,
bottom of the deck.
Crucible.
Now the Aether Wildfire with the Crucible. So this is 5. This will take that final point. So 4 damage represented. That means the Overthrow the Aether Well comes in for 5.
Yeah, 19. Yep.
Overflow going to be sent here. It's going to surge. Going to guarantee gain 2 points of resource. 2 resources coming across. 2 energy.
Resources.
Yep, going on to...
Gives him access to Kano.
14.
It also gives him access to blocking the rune chance and then dying if he chooses to do that.
And there it is. It
Oh, wait,
is
he
the
can't.
second Aether Wildfire, like you mentioned, pitched together. That is going to be the end of the game. Hunter had to do it there, but unfortunately the pitch stack comes back to bite him as Brennan moves on to 3-0 on the not newest Runeblade on the block, but a Runeblade that is looking to take the tools granted to her in Rosetta and move on further than she ever has before in our metagame.
I love this. Both players just chuckling to themselves about the absolute variance of the game.
They were like, what a weird game.
That was a very weird game. Definitely one of those games that you don't see played like that every single time. And I think to their credit, their decks definitely didn't agree through that.
But again, I mean, I was making a joke about a Tome of Aetherwind would be good off the top, but if that is not a good representation of a game where you're like, the combo doesn't quite work out, but Tome of Aetherwind used to be the card that you find it off the top on a turn like that and you just somehow find a way to win. It was the glue that held the Kano deck, not together, because Kano's still clearly incredibly strong in the metagame, but allowed for those come from behind. Oh, I just need to Tome off the top. Just like allowed for so many more wins than perhaps it will be able to find in games like these moving forward.
Yeah, it's going to reward player skill more heavily now playing Kano and winning with Kano because you can't just flip off the top like that. And instead, you have to be very meticulous about counting so much more and controlling so much more of your deck. And that's what variance looks like. We just watched it from both players. Variance looks like that, and you have to be able to master that variance to be able to pick up the win. And Brennan found his way through, so congratulations to him for picking up the win in round 2. That is, I believe, was that our first game in round 2 or our second?
It was round
game?
3, but it was that was our backup game. Yep, that was
Oh my
no, it was
gosh.
our first game. It was our first game. It
First
just
game
was
of
so
round
long
3.
that it felt like
Yes,
the backup
it
game
was-
because we're at the end of
That
this.
was a storyline of affairs. We are hearing this. There is now a meta breakdown available. So let's go ahead and jump to that. Taking a look at the meta breakdown, let's see what this meta looks like and look at that
Ooh.
enigma of what so many players thought was going to be that benchmark deck. shows up and shows out at 13 copies.
And 13 new. That's a deck the Enigmas are probably happy to be seeing, but I think the card, the hero on the left side of your screen in the big square and the hero on the right side of your screen in the big square, that's an interesting matchup we're going to be, I'm sure, watching throughout the tournament, because again, there will be a battle-hardened champion at the end of the stream today. In the Enigma Aurora matchup, we were talking to our friend Sam Dando. He was saying, listen, that matchup's pretty hard, man. If they build up the board of war that I just can't break through, I have to develop my resources to try to block that. I like to go so wide. I like to threaten my on-hits, but if my on-hits need to be taking out the ward, that's going to be a matchup I'm looking forward to see.
I want to point this out. I did walk around earlier, and I saw a lot of Azalea, but Azalea showing up at number 4 represented with 9 total copies is kind of interesting. Right next to her is Viserai as well. So both of those heroes, sort of aggro disruptive decks in this meta, being represented heavily here, tied with them, Levia, who we've watched now twice on stream.
Is every deck here but Olympia? No Azuri either. So no Olympia, no Azuri. I'm trying to think if there's any other heroes that aren't joining the team. There's a couple Prism. There's at least we just watched the Vynnset. There's a lot of decks here represented. -IO, -IE, a deck that we know is running Count Your Blessings quite effectively.
Yep.
Guardian with the gun.
Yeah, I would very much like to see one of those -IE lists, and we might see it at the top tables depending on how it's performing. We can take a look at
ironically,
that. Yeah.
not because we're trying to avoid it, but no Count Your Blessings so far in the tournament. Of course, you have to imagine some part of that strategy is going to make its way towards these top tables moving on forward. But at least in these early rounds, the players that are doing well are not relying on the card.
Yeah, taking a look at these new heroes and their representation. Of course, we know Aurora. We already talked about Aurora being one of those top heroes being represented as that aggressive list. 6 Florians from the new set. Very solid mid-range deck that can do some crazy stuff. 5 Verdants as well. Acilio down there towards the bottom. We did watch Acilio on the previous round, on round 2. So if you want to go watch Acilio get played out there, it is on the round 2 cast. And let me go ahead and pitch it over. Nope. I guess I'm taking this piece of paper, and it looks like we don't have any Betsy, we don't have any Bravo, we don't have any Reinar, we don't have any Phi, no Azuri, as you mentioned, and no Olympia. So there are a number of heroes that aren't represented here, and I mean, it makes some sense. I mean, looking at this list, no Reinar, no Bravo, no Phi.
How the mighty have fallen, eh?
Phi, of course, a lot of players have talked about Phi being just so underpowered now, doesn't have access to Art of War, so not being represented there. Betsy did get a new card from the new set, but that specialization, not enough to move the needle on her representation. I think she was represented over at the Calling in Leon, but not here today.
Only Guardian to speak of other than, of course, -IE is Victor, Goldmane, a deck that, of course, the value gained off of those trounces, off of those tests of strengths can be enough in certain matchups. But when you're looking at the top left of your screen and seeing 13 Enigma, 13 new, those are not the decks that Victor is necessarily hoping to run into. I think as you look ahead to ProQuest season, these are the decks we're going to be, at least in the beginning of the metagame, seeing dominate the tables. You got to be ready for those Enigmas, those news, those Auroras. These are decks that people want to be seeing.
Yeah, there's something that I want to point out here that we haven't talked about yet, and the fact that only 5 players have taken KO out for a spin today is quite surprising to me, simply because KO is one of those heavily represented heroes that just feels like they have the complete package. The deck is well known. It is well optimized, we'll put it that way. And a lot of players can just run it out there and play at a very high level, and yet only 5 represented is quite a conundrum. And maybe it's just the feeling of the new matchup, or the Aurora race, or the Enigma matchup doesn't feel comfortable yet for these KO players. That to me is shocking, though.
We're going to go ahead and take a quick 3-minute break from our end over here before the start of round 4 of 7 of Swiss, before, of course, we move into the top 8. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us in the chat. Just got word we broke over 1,000 viewers. Very exciting. Please share the stream with your friends, with your family members. Get them all into the stream and into the chat so we can talk about everything going on. Let's go ahead and take a quick 3-minute break. We'll be right back.